You're listening to a TGM production. Hello and welcome to a special edition of Chatterbox. The reason why today is a special edition is because this podcast will be recorded in two halves. First part will be recording on the 29th of May 2025, which is a Thursday at 3:38 p.m. Then part 2 of this, which is the second half of this podcast, will be recorded on the 30th of May 2025, which is a Friday at about, I would say, between the hours of 7 a.m. and 8 and 9 and half 9 a.m. All depends on how I go on filming my Tom Mason video in the morning, which is my main channel. The visual version might or might not have an audio waveform. It all depends on whether or not I feel that I want to spend forever trying to get that working, because last time when I did the Quest pilot, which was called the Cafe, it took me like days trying to get it working. My computer was playing up with me. It's all fine now, and so it may or may not happen. And I also like to say that Chatterbox is the podcast where anything can happen, and literally anything will happen. So if you hear squeaky noises or noises that might not sound right, it's because I'm currently sat on a chair that, if you want to get into details, probably might need some WD-40. I don't know. I'm not the DIY expert, and because I'm not sat in a setup, I'm not sat with it on a mic stand, I'm holding this manually, it does mean that you'll hear all those noises, and then that's perfectly fine, because this podcast is for anything. I also want to talk about Albert Fallpot's podcast, which I'm hoping, as the year progresses, I'm hoping that it gets more technical in the ability to make it more comical in not just voice sense, but also in the sense of style, in the sense of action, and in the sense of sound effects that are used. Because I did an interview with Tom Crawley, who has his own podcast, which is, I would say, a comedy podcast, as it would be because he's a comedian, but it's one of those podcasts that require like editing, because it's a sketchish-ish type thing. And I think that what really works for that is that that's what the podcast medium should be. So I attempt to do that with the Albert Fallpot podcast. I attempt to do that with going down the rabbit hole, and I'm hoping to do that more with some of my other podcasts that I've got. I hope to make them more character-based and more dramatic. So if I bring back my Avengers podcast, which is about the British TV show The Avengers, I would make that more, here's a character pretending to review the show, and here's the antics he gets up to. But the element of it is that he reviews an episode, but other things might occur to him. They're a lot more scripted, I hope. So I wanted one podcast that was never going to change, that was always unscripted, and where anything could happen, and I could talk for however long I wanted, 10 minutes, 4 minutes, half an hour, 3 hours, 25 minutes, and that was this podcast. And I wanted to record that today, and I thought, no, I'll wait till Friday, and I'll record that on Friday. And I'm sat watching Bob's Burgers, and I was watching Genius Game, which is I'm going to talk about over on the Reality World Reality World YouTube channel. And so I was watching it thinking, yeah, I am going to go and do it. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to record it in two parts, so that part one will be recorded today, and I can talk about whatever I want now, and then the second half of the same episode will be recorded tomorrow, which will be its own length, its own distance, and I could talk about whatever, and none of the things will be connected, obviously, and they won't be linked together, they won't be connected, but that's the point. the point is that it might seem jarring. I'll add a fade in the audio, I'll add a fade in the image, I'll make it clear that it's part 2, just so that you know that it's a different element, so it doesn't go down, it doesn't jump out at you, because that is the last thing that I want to happen. The last thing I want is for the episode to jump out at you. And so in this part, we're talking about the thing itself. I also want to say that the podcast I did run, which was called TGM Productions, the podcast, which was a podcast for my production company, I think has come to an end, due to the fact that I want to not focus on TGM as that. I want it just to be in the background. So TGM Productions made this podcast, TGM. The company is called TGM, but it's called TGM Productions because when I googled it, you have to use the word production to make it clear if the title doesn't suggest that it's a production company. So TGM is a production company that makes podcasts, makes radio shows, makes web series that hope to get piloted for TV shows. It makes stuff on the internet for YouTube that attempts to be the sort of thing that could be on TV. And so the discussion videos on the Tom Mason YouTube channel are produced by TGM. And this podcast is produced by TGM. And the intro to this, when TGM, me and TGM, I run TGM Productions. I'm the founder of TGM Productions. And as a production company, I thought, well, for radio, the music doesn't make sense per se. And I was also trying to do more accessibility because my YouTube channel, Tom Jarvu, originally, before it became what it was, when it wasn't a thing, it was just an idea. I originally wanted it for sign language. I wanted it for languages. So what I mean by that is that I wanted to translate a film. I call them film now instead of videos. I wanted to translate a film or a video, whatever you want to call it, into either Welsh, Cornish, Irish, or whatever. And they were the core languages because they were the ones that are rarer and would make it more of a unique accessibility thing. And I wanted to do the BSL stuff, but trying to find all the assets to make that element work was never going to work. Neither was the language learning. I wasn't doing quite well at learning the languages, so that wasn't going to work. And then what you had to do is that I then just went, right, I'm going to have to just give up on that idea, and I moved on with my life and went, no. And then I thought, well, Deja Vu, Channel 4 Plus 1, rerun the thing, so I'll do that. But what I do on that channel is I don't just rerun films, I re-edit them, I adjust them, I make them better. So I had a copyright claim on a video where I talked about John Pertwee's Burger Van, which was a gag within a Doctor Who thing, and I played in the clip and it got copyrighted, so I cut the clip out. So in the edited version over in Tom Jarvu, I made it exactly how I wanted it, and there it was. And then I thought, I could do audio description. And so I thought, yes, I do audio description. And so that's what I did, is I created my first ever piece of audio description. And currently, as a production company, TGM are trying to work out the script for their next adventure into the world of audio description, because the subtitles are going to be harder because the AI and the adjustments that Premiere makes aren't as good as everyone says they are and aren't good as they were. So the subtitles, these things, are slowly but surely are coming to fruition, but that's going to take yonks. And so I'm now just going to focus on the audio description for that channel. And obviously I also create me and TGM also create two brand new YouTube channels. So the first one is Children's Hour, based on the series that was on the third channel, but it's now been adapted, re-edited and reformatted for Children's Hour. And then Tom's Book Club, BookTube, and whatever it's called now, on the third channel on the weird side, which is where this is, it's now been rebranded as the Page Turning Club and has its own YouTube channel where I talk about my book collection and transferring old videos from the weird side, re-editing them, readjusting them, making them more Page Turning Clubby, and then releasing them in the wild. But yeah, that's the end of part 1. What you're about to hear now is either a mini sting to get you into the second part, or me saying welcome to part 2, which will be recorded on Friday. Bye bye. It's Friday, the 30th of May at 9:04 AM, and welcome to part 2 of Chatterbox. Yes, I wanted to make it sound like I was a radio DJ. It's because I very rarely record things that are just pure audio. And when I do, they're normally like some drama radio thing. Yeah. So, what was I going to say? I was going to say, that was it. So, recently, as of 9:05 AM, I'm currently 15 minutes and 12 seconds with 28 minutes and 47 seconds left of the 5th episode in the second series of Power of Parker.
Shacked up with the Chancellor.
Yeah, I heard.
Ash, I know this is weird.
And hopefully you heard that there. I don't know how the audio works on that one. That was a clip from Power of Parker. Let's try it again.
Can I have a cuddle?
I actually don't know where the speaker is. Anyway. So, the Power of Parker Series 2 is the clip I was trying to play you there, but that didn't really work. So, the Power of Parker Series 2, in my opinion, so far, is excellent, and I think it's well worth a view if you haven't already seen it. It did only just come out today at 6 AM, and if you want to watch it live, which, here's the thing, and this is what we're going to discuss. I would rather watch Power of Parker weekly, and you're all going to say, Tom. You can already do that. Just don't watch it on the iPlayer. Yes, but if you're excited for something, right, you sort of can't wait and then get eager and press buttons and end up watching the thing, right? That's what happens to me. So I end up getting overly excited by the fact that it's coming out, and then the moment it comes out, I'm like, and I press play. And if you, in the realm I'm in, where when you open up the Sky app, right, whether or not you're opening the Sky Go app or you're opening up your Sky Q or any of your Sky systems that have automatic recommendations for programs, then the program you're excited for would be on the front page, and then you can't resist. So it's all about temptation. I think that's what's up with modern TV. It's all about temptation. Not the Temptations, the musical band, but just temptation in general, really. And that's what TV needs to figure out. So, yes, streaming perfectly fine. Everyone's hunky-dory on the matter. But really, why is that the deal, you ask? And that's the question you have to ask yourself, is why is that the thing? Why in every realm and in every aspect of this, why is that something that should be considered as the thing? So, if you really look back at, like, TV before the realm we're in, before the model we're in now, I was trying to think of a skybox that could represent this, but it happened in the early days of Sky Q when we got it, and what happened was, you would watch the first episode of, let's say Power of Parker, right? Not the best example because it wasn't in this model, but sitcoms in a similar ilk. So if you watched the first episode of Power Parker at 9 p.m. on BBC One. You would watch it, and then the rest of the series from that point onwards would be available on the iPlayer. And that's like fair enough, hunky dory. You've got something new to watch for the rest of the evening if you don't want to watch what's on next. But with this model, the BBC and other streaming services have done it's taken the inspiration, it's taken the aspect of it from Netflix, probably, because Netflix was their biggest competitor at the time. It's no longer is. And what's happened, really, is it meant that from 6am, 8am, and I would say 9am, these services, these catch-up services, like the BBC iPlayer, ITVX, and I'm going to say Channel 4, but we'll get onto that in a second, and they end up added on the expert of at 6 you can watch the whole of Power Parker but the thing that the BBC does, the thing that Channel 4 does, and I don't know about ITV, but with Have I Got News For You, they don't add it on the iPlayer early, which is excellent, and same with Taskmaster. So we've still got some traditional forms of review TV. Doctor Who didn't do that, and then it started doing that, and that's become an issue because 9am, well, midnight didn't work for people. People complained, and they have a right to complain, and then 8am doesn't work either, so more chance people complain, the more it could possibly get fixed. And I hope that the Reality War, which is the episode that will air on Saturday, will have the biggest viewing figures possible, so that so that it could be show that airing on the BBC at 6:50, shall we say, airing it live instead of adding it on the iPlayer early, would be 100% a better, more cost-effective way of promoting and airing the show. So hopefully that works. And I think that drama, sitcoms, sketch shows, and scripted shows don't get the treatment of a Have I Got News For You, doesn't get treatment of a Interior Design Masters, doesn't get a treatment of Race Across the World or a Taskmaster or a Genius Game or whatever. And all these reality programs that get the treatment of let's air this live and only live and not really add it to the iPlayer until after it's aired. But sitcoms, sketch shows and dramas get their box sets added on the iPlayer or the ITVX or Channel 4 app or Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, all this straight away. I know that for Disney Plus, sometimes it airs weekly, and for Netflix, sometimes they air it weekly, which is reverting back to what their model was. But I think that as a whole, it still makes sense. And what Channel 4 does, that sort of, at the beginning it was like, oh, this is brilliant, oh yeah, and then it goes, oh, I see the downside of this now. So what it did, what they've done is for the Channel 4, because they run off ITVX, they've got the premium service that merges BritBox, so makes it worth the money. Because BritBox no longer being a separate service means that content needs to be put somewhere. And so I added it to ITVX Premium behind a paywall for some of it and not for all of it now. I think that sort of made it more worth for its money. But Channel 4 have been doing this since it was called All 4. And there's this thing called Channel 4 Plus or All 4 Plus. And what that did, to try and make it worth the money, not just remove the adverts of the programmes, it's certain programs this allowed you to watch ahead of time. So in 2024, I watched the latest series of Celebrity Hunted because it was on there for 6 or 7 weeks, and then it aired officially on Channel 4 the TV channel in 2025. And it was no longer, it didn't add it all on to afterwards, but they added it on the early section of being early bird and watching early, which, as a whole, it works. Yes, don't get me wrong, it works, but I do think that it sort of then stops you from watching it early. I understand for press, they need it to get the reviews out, to do all this and the other, but I don't think the general public should have access to that. I think it's worth it, because it's I Could Wait the Horn Section TV show series 2, way before it aired, so that I got to watch it, because I really wanted to watch it, I was excited for it, so certain times it works, but I just think that they should pick and choose carefully what programs they think that are worth getting the early treatment. So their reality stuff, like Hunted, they shouldn't have done it with Celebrity Hunted, right? And that's my overall opinion. Is everything else they do it with, right, makes sense, but I don't think they should have done it with Hunted. It wasn't really. It's not really its correct type of program for that, and overall, we think that that's what makes it sort of not work, and that's not anyone's one fault. It's just, I just think on a decision making level, I think they have to sort of pick and choose carefully what gets used, what doesn't get used, what programs they think are worth sending off early. So if you, let's say, if you did The Traitors early, then you wouldn't probably get a second series out of it, right? So Celebrity Hunted is different because it was already in its establishment phase by the time they'd done this. So I do think it's a tricky dice to play. And so, with that, we end our 2-part extravaganza episode of Chatterbox, the podcast where anything could be chatted about, and literally anything has been chatted about, because we did a 2-parter because I didn't have enough time yesterday to record a full episode, to edit it, to upload it. So I had enough time to record 10 minutes, 11 minutes, whatever. I had just about enough time to do that, so I thought, right, let's record the second part on Friday, the 30th of May 2025, so that we've got 2-parter, 2 parts in one, really. It's a successor. We're recording omnibuses and all sorts, and we're going to just unplug my camera now, so if you hear the noises, it's me unplugging my camera. We're editing an omnibus for the main channel that we didn't realize the camera died, so we couldn't record a bit at the beginning. So we had a lot to sort of go off with that. So, thank you for listening to Chatterbox. If you've got any suggestions for any further uses with Chatterbox, it might have a different intro in this episode. It depends on if I actually can find the original assets for the theme tune, but otherwise, thank you guys for watching. Bye bye.